the town of Barberville, Knox County, Kentucky. Welcome to Barberville. Barberville is the county seat of Knox County. In 1750, explorer Dr. Thomas Walker visited the area, preceding Daniel Boone by 17 years. While there, he built what is believed to be the first cabin in Kentucky. In 1775, the first trails and roads were created, such as the Wilderness Road, Warrior's Path, and the Daniel Boone Trail, known as the Boone Trace. In 1800, the town of Barberville was established, making it the oldest town and the largest and most progressive city south of Richmond. In 1879, the first college in the mountains, Union College, was established. Barberville is presently an agricultural trading center for tobacco, timber, vegetables, and sorghum, the namesake. The name Barberville was adopted for the community formerly known as Hammonsburg, in honor of James Barber, who was the governor of Virginia at the time and donated land for the town. The Mines. Compiled from Dodrill's 10,000 Coal Company stores. Company name producing year's number of employees. Baston Coal Company, 1905 to 1906. 50. Consumers, cooperating. Coal Company, 1923-1925. 35. K.D. Blue Gem Coal Company, 1919-1923. 30. Richland Creek Coal Company, 1919-1925. 20. Turkey Creek Coal Company, 1923-1930. 55. Important places. Union College. Union College is a private, 4-year liberal arts institution affiliated with the United Methodist Church. Founded in 1879, it is one of the oldest universities in Kentucky. Union College offers a range of undergraduate and graduate programs and contributes to the educational and cultural landscape of Barbersville and Knox County. Daniel Boone National Forest. Surrounding Barberville, Daniel Boone. National Forest is a national forest in Kentucky. Established in 1937, it includes 708,000 acres of federally owned land within a 2,100,000-acre proclamation boundary, Dr. Thomas Walker State Park. This state park is located southeast of Barberville and contains the Dr. Thomas Walker State Historic Site, the home of the first house built by settlers in Kentucky. Today, the park contains a replica of the cabin that was constructed by explorer and physician Dr. Thomas Walker. The state park is located on Kentucky 459 off US 25 East. On June 20, 1931, the Dr. Thomas Walker State Shrine became a part of Kentucky Parks. Notable people. After becoming a member of the Loyal Land Company, Dr. Thomas Walker organized the first known English expedition through Cumberland Gap on April 13, 1750. He named the gap through the mountains after the Duke of Cumberland, the son of King George II. The Walker expedition, under the auspices of the Loyal Land Company, came to Kentucky to explore and lay claim to 800,000 acres of wilderness. On April 23, 1750, the explorers encountered a river that Walker also named the Cumberland. After exploring the surrounding countryside, Walker built a small, crude cabin to give legality to the lands he had claimed. He stayed in the area for a few days and started the journey homeward. On July 13, 1750, he returned to Virginia. He did not return to Kentucky, but he did leave a journal containing an account of his exploration to eastern Kentucky. Among the accounts of the difficulties and hardships in traveling through the wilderness, Walker noted that during the journey his party had killed 13 buffalo, 8 elks, 53 bears, 20 deer, 4 wild geese, and about 150 turkeys, besides small game. He recorded that the expedition could have killed 3 times as much meat if we had wanted it. George Madison Adams was born in Barberville. After attending Center College to study law but failing to graduate, Adams served as the Knox County Circuit Clerk from 1859 to 1861. He was then elected as a Democrat to the 40th and to 3 succeeding Congresses from March 4, 1867 to March 3, 1875, the 41st, 42nd, and 43rd Congresses. He was an unsuccessful candidate for re-election in 1874 to the 44th Congress. He was then elected clerk of the House of Representatives on December 6, 1875, during the 44th Congress, and served until the commencement of the 47th Congress on December 5, 1881. Adams was later appointed Register of the Kentucky Land Office by Governor J. Proctor Knott, serving from 1884 to 1887. He was then appointed Secretary of State for Kentucky by Governor Simon B. Buckner and served from 1887 to 1891. Following his tenure as Secretary of State, Adams was appointed Kentucky State Railroad Commissioner in 1891. Lastly, Adams was appointed United States Pension Agent at Louisville by President Grover Cleveland and served from 1894 to 1898. James D. Black was born on Richland Creek, 9 miles from Barbourville. Black served as the 39th Kentucky governor for 7 months following his election as lieutenant governor with Governor Augustus O. Stanley. Stanley resigned from the governorship when he was elected to the U.S. Senate, thus elevating Black to governor. Prior to his political career, Black graduated from Tusculum College and opened his law practice in 1874. He served as superintendent in the Knox County Public Schools for 2 years and was instrumental in the founding of Union College, serving as its president from 1910 to 1912. James S. Golden was a U.S. representative born in Barbourville. Golden had a notable career both in law and politics. After completing his education, which included a law degree from the University of Michigan, Golden began practicing law in his hometown in 1916. He quickly became involved in public service, serving as the county attorney for Knox County from 1918 to 1922. Golden was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives as a Republican, representing Kentucky's 9th District from 1949 to 1955. Following the elimination of that district, he represented the 8th District from 1953 to 1955. During his time in Congress, he was known for his dedication to his constituents, although he did not seek re-election in 1954. After leaving Congress, Golden returned to practicing law until his death on September 6, 1971, in Pineville, Kentucky. John M. Robson, Jr. was a U.S. representative who served from 1953 to 1959. Born in Barbourville on August 28, 1904, Robson was the son of John M. Robson, Sr., who also served as a U.S. representative and a U.S. senator from Kentucky. Robson, Jr. followed in his father's political footsteps, beginning his career in law after earning a degree from Cumberland School of Law in 1927. His entry into politics was marked by his election to the U.S. House of Representatives as a Republican in 1952. He represented Kentucky's 9th Congressional District from 1953 until 1955, and after the district was eliminated, he represented the 7th District from 1955 until 1959. During his time in Congress, Robson was known for his work on issues related to Veterans Affairs and agricultural policy. He chose not to seek re-election in 1958 and returned to practicing law. William A. Stanfield was a U.S. Senator who served a brief term from November 19, 1945 to January 3, 1947. Born on January 16, 1892 in Barbourville, Stanfield pursued a career in law after earning his degree from Union College and the University of Kentucky College of Law. Stanfield's term in the Senate came after the death of Senator Happy Chandler, who had resigned to become Commissioner of Major League Baseball. Kentucky Governor Simeon Willis appointed Stanfield to fill the vacancy. Stanfield was a member of the Republican Party and served during the final months of World War II and the early post-war period. However, his time in office was short as he did not run for election in 1946. After his term ended, Stanfield returned to his legal practice. He remained active in the Kentucky legal and political community, until his death on June 12, 1971. Kenneth H. Tuggle served as the Lieutenant Governor of Kentucky from 1943 to 1947. Born on February 12, 1904 in Barbourville, Tuggle was a prominent lawyer and politician in the state. He earned his law degree from the University of Kentucky College of Law and began his legal practice in his hometown. Tuggle's political career gained momentum when he was elected as the Lieutenant Governor under Governor Simeon Willis. During his tenure, Tuggle was known for his efforts to support the state's economic development and his work on public policy issues. His role as Lieutenant Governor positioned him as a key figure in Kentucky's Republican Party during the 1940s. After serving as Lieutenant Governor, Tuggle continued his public service by working as a member of the Interstate Commerce Commission, where he contributed to the regulation of transportation industries in the United States. He held this position until his retirement in 1971. Notable events. Battle of Barbourville. The city of Barbourville is recognized as the site of the first Civil War skirmish in eastern Kentucky. On September 19, 1861, Confederate troops launched a surprise attack on the Union camp at Barbourville. The Union forces, though outnumbered, engaged in a brief skirmish before retreating. The Confederates captured the town, as well as supplies and equipment left behind by the Union forces. However, this victory was only temporary, as the region remained contested throughout the war. While not a large battle, the Battle of Barbourville was significant as it marked the beginning of larger conflicts in Kentucky, a border state with divided loyalties. The battle demonstrated the strategic importance of the region and foreshadowed the intense fighting that would occur in Kentucky later in the war. Daniel Boone Festival. The Daniel Boone Festival is the oldest continuous celebration in the state honoring the man who embodied the pioneer spirit of Kentucky, Daniel Boone. The festival was made a Kentucky corporation with the intent to ensure that no other community could claim the idea, which annually brings thousands of visitors and participants into the city of Barbourville, providing a tremendous economic boost to the area. The festival was created in 1948 by Union College professor Carl Blale as a deliberate attempt to challenge mass media's demeaning images of Kentuckians by replacing negative stereotypes with an heroic model of frontier adventure. Dr. Blale hoped that the festival would educate young people about their ancestors' crossing of the Cumberland Gap into an untamed, beautiful land and about the Native American tribes who were there before them. The town of Beattyville, Lee County, Kentucky. Welcome to Beattyville. The town of Beattyville was erected in 1870. Three forks, north, middle, and south of the Kentucky River, come together in downtown Beattyville. Beattyville and Lee County have a rich commercial history. From the earliest recorded times, Native Americans harvested the resources of the area. The earliest inhabitants were cave dwellers in the Big and Little Sinking Creek area who hunted and farmed. In later times, the Shawnee to the north and the Cherokee to the south made use of the plentiful game and often clashed in this dark and bloody ground, a no man's land. A major route for these indigenous nations was the Athawamani, or the Path of the Armed Ones. It ran from the Cherokee Nation in the Carolinas through the Cumberland Gap north to Lake Erie. A branch of this trail ran along the South Fork of the Kentucky River through the Beattyville-Proctor area. When the railroad came within reach of Beattyville in 1890, it created a boom and the population jumped up from 300 to 1,000. The Beattyville Courthouse was completed in 1873. It was made of brick at a cost of $12,000. The namesake. Beattyville was originally known as Taylor's Landing, then Beatty or Beattytown. The town was named for Samuel Beatty, a local pioneer. The mines, compiled from Doe Drill's 10,000 coal company stores. 1. The Abbott Beattyville Coal Company operated before 1903, but the number of employees is unknown. 2. The Beattyville Fuel Company operated from 1917 to 1925 and had 20 employees. 3. The Black Fox Coal Company operated from 1933 to 1939 with 50 employees. 4. The Frankfort Elevator Coal Company operated between 1924 and 1925, employing 40 people. 5. The Jameson Coal Company operated from 1917 to 1921 with 40 employees. 6. The L.C. Norman and Sons Mine operated from 1903 to 1906, employing 100 people. 7. The McGuire Coal Company operated from 1903 to 1908 with 35 employees. 8. The Richardson Coal Company operated between 1910 and 1914 with 75 employees. 9. The Beattyville Company operated from 1916 to 1924 with 20 employees. 10. The Beattyville Mine Company operated between 1921 and 1924, employing 20 people. 11. The Thomas Jameson and Son Mine operated from 1926 to 1930 with 30 employees. 12. The Thomas Logan Mine operated from 1909 to 1910, employing 11 people. 13. The Warner Coal Company operated from 1917 to 1925 with 15 employees. Important places: Fitchburg Charcoal Furnace. Completed in 1869, Fitchburg's charcoal furnace was the largest charcoal iron furnace in the world for a time. Fred Fitch designed the furnace, and Sam Worthley, a stonemason from Scotland, completed construction. Red River Gorge. The Red River Gorge is a canyon system on the Red River in east-central Kentucky. Geologically, it is part of the Pottsville Escarpment. The gorge lies within the Daniel Boone National Forest and was subsequently designated the Red River Gorge Geological Area, an area of around 29,000 acres. It was designated a National Natural Landmark and National Archaeological District and is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The 379-acre Clifty Wilderness Area lies entirely within the geological area in the Red River Gorge. This intricate canyon system features an abundance of high sandstone cliffs, rock shelters, waterfalls, and natural bridges. There are more than 100 natural sandstone arches in the Red River Gorge geological area. The multitude of sandstone and cliff lines helped this area become one of the world's top rock climbing destinations and is home to the Red River Gorge Climbers Coalition. The area is nicknamed the Red by climbers. Kentucky Wild River. The Kentucky Wild River is the legal designation by the Kentucky General Assembly through the Office of Kentucky Nature Preserve's Wild Rivers Program for the section of Red River in the Upper Gorge. This is the only river with this designation in Kentucky. Notable people. Sheriff William Sims was shot and killed at the age of 27 by a man, Oscar Morton, who became enraged when he was denied entrance to the county fair in Beattyville because he did not have a ticket. When the man got loud and verbally abusive with the gatekeeper, Sheriff Sims stepped in and warned him to be quiet. The man took out his anger on the sheriff, drawing 2 revolvers and shooting the sheriff 3 times, killing him instantly. The local jailer who was nearby returned fire, wounding the suspect, and with the help of several citizens subdued him. The next morning, an angry mob forced their way into the county jail, seized the suspect, and hanged him. Sheriff Sims had been sheriff in Lee County for 2 years and was up for re-election with no opposition. He was survived by his wife and 3 children. Frank A. Lyons served as postmaster for Beattyville in the late 19th century. It was unusual in that Lyon owned the building the post office was housed in. Malcolm Kilduff was an American journalist best known for making the public announcement of the death of U.S. President John F. Kennedy. Born in New York, Kilduff was Kennedy's assistant White House press secretary and the ranking press secretary on the November 1963 trip to Dallas, Texas, where Kennedy was assassinated. Following his political career, Mack moved to Beattyville, where he worked as an editor for the Beattyville Enterprise newspaper and won a number of Kentucky Press Association awards. In Beattyville, Kilduff was active in the Kiwanis Club, the Natural Bridge Park Association, and the Buckhorn Scenic Trails Association. He was also an admitted recovering alcoholic and often spoke to students and civic groups not only about his experience with President Kennedy, but of his experiences with alcoholism and his recovery. Kilduff is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Rosemary Kilduff, the second wife of Mack, was also a columnist for the paper and an award-winning journalist. Rosemary was from Beattyville and returned to her hometown with her husband following a career in Washington, D.C. One of her columns, dealing with methods of forecasting the weather in mountain folklore, became the impetus for the town's annual fall festival, the Woolly Worm Festival, held the third weekend in October. Notable events. Woolly Worm Festival. Since 1988, on the third weekend after the first Monday of October, the main street of Beattyville closes to traffic for the annual Woolly Worm Festival. It operates for 3 days: Friday, opening day; Saturday, parade day; and Sunday, closing day, which also features a large car show. The name Woolly Worm refers to the woolly bear caterpillar. The official mascot, Woolly the Woolly Worm, is used as an image on some local merchandise and flyers. A round hay bale caricature of Woolly stands beside the welcome sign to Beattyville. The festival is the outgrowth of a series of stories by Beattyville native Rosemary Kilduff that track the predictions of winter weather based on local folklore. The severity of upcoming winter weather was said to be foretold by the relative proportions of black to brown coloration of the caterpillars. Kilduff penned columns in the local newspaper in the 1980s that collected woolly worm sightings by local residents. During the festival, numerous musicians perform almost constantly on one of 2 stages, and dozens of booths offer a wide variety of merchandise and food. Helicopter tours of Beattyville and Lee County are available. The woolly worm races are won by coaxing one of these hairy caterpillars to the top of a string. The first one to reach the top wins, with the only rule being no touching. There's usually a The town of Artemis, Knox County, Kentucky. Welcome to Artemis. The town of Artemis is located approximately 4 miles southeast of Barbourville, the county seat of Knox County. The namesake. The town of Artemis was originally known as Artemis Station after the Louisville and Nashville Railroad. Following the opening of the Elam Post Office in 1888, the community was renamed Brush Creek in 1889 and finally Artemis in 1891. The name was changed to Artemis in honor of Artemis Herndon, the man who donated the land to start the community. The mine's numerous small mining operations were reported in or near the Artemis community. Information from Dodrill's 10,000 coal company stores shows the following information for the Artemis community. Artemis Coal Company mined in 1903 with reportedly 80 employees. Artemis Jellicoe Mining Company mined from 1904 to 1908, having reportedly 50 employees. East Jellicoe Coal Company mined from 1903 to 1906, and again from 1915 to 1923, having reportedly 200 employees. Peanut Coal Company mined from 1908 to 1909 with reportedly 20 employees. The Trosper Coal Company mined from 1909 to 1912, having reportedly 50 employees. Jackson Coal Mining Company mined from 1916 to 1923 with reportedly 30 employees. W&L Blue Gem Coal Company mined 1917 to 1919, having reportedly 20 employees. Charles Coal Company mined from 1919 to 1925, with reportedly 30 employees. Franklin Coal Company mined from 1921 to 1928, having reportedly 20 employees. New Franklin Coal Company mined from 1929 to 1932, having reportedly 40 employees. Kentucky Jellicoe Coal Company mined from 1933 to 1951 with reportedly 250 employees. Notable people: James D. Black, born in Knox County, served as the governor of Kentucky from 1919 to 1923. He was a physician by training and played a significant role in state politics during his tenure as governor. The towns of Barthel and Stearns, McCreary County, Kentucky. Welcome to Barthel and Stearns. The town of Barthel was established in 1902 and was the first of 18 coal camps in the area. Justice S. Stearns of Ludington, Michigan, bought 30,000 acres of virgin timberland in this area. When coal was discovered soon afterwards, the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company was formed in 1910. The company built the town of Stearns, which served as the hub of a logging and mining empire that during its heyday in the 1920s controlled over 200 square miles of land and built the Kentucky and Tennessee Railway, in addition to the world's first all-electric sawmill. It also employed over 2,200 people living and working in the 18 coal camps. The company colors were sage green and white, and all the buildings were painted those colors. The namesakes. Barthel was named after E. Barthel, a lawyer from Nashville who drew up the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company's Articles of Incorporation in 1902 and who served as the company's general counsel. Barthel died in 1937. Stearns was named after Stearns Coal and Lumber Company, who built the town. The mines. Both Barthel Coal Company and Stearns Coal and Lumber Company operated in the area. By 1909, Barthel consisted of 41 dwellings, company store number 2, there were a total of 18, a big motor house, bathhouse, tipple, school, and a post office. 15 one- and two-bedroom houses, the bathhouse, barber shop, and doctor's office have been meticulously restored and stocked with period antiques. The Stearns Co. also negotiated a contract with Southern Railway, which provided a major market for Barthel's number 2 seam coal. In 1920, the State Bank of Stearns was formed with deposits exceeding $500,000 by 1929. This bank dissolved in 1940-41. The phasing out of mules working underground began in 1928-29 with Camargo Co. selling electric motors to Stearns. In January 1930, 161 tons of coal was produced at Barthel, which was a record month. In 1937, Stearns sold much of the already logged property to the U.S. Forest Service, which is now known as the Cumberland National Forest. In 1943, the tipple and nearby structure burned and were not rebuilt. This was the end of mining at Mine 1. In 1961, the mine and coal camp properties were dismantled, and in 1974, the Big South Fork National Recreation Area was formed. In 1984, the Koger family purchased Barthel from Stearns Coal and Lumber Company with the intent of creating a tourism attraction. Harold Koger, Harold Dwight Koger, and their spouses invested more than $500,000 to reconstruct the facilities, even obtaining 5 tram locomotives. Important places. Both the communities of Barthel and Stearns are now part of the Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area, preserving some of the historical aspects of their coal mining heritage. The McCreary County Museum is housed in the old Stearns Coal and Lumber Company corporate headquarters, built in 1907. The museum was founded in 1988 and is filled with historic documents, objects, and photographs pertaining to historic Stearns and McCreary County, including exhibits that demonstrate the culture and lifestyle of McCreary Countyans over the years. The museum overlooks the town of Stearns, which features the Big South Fork Scenic Railway and local craft and gift shops. The Big South Fork Scenic Railway is a heritage railroad located in Stearns. This scenic railway offers excursion train rides through the picturesque landscape of the Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area. The railway operates on a historic route that was originally part of the Kentucky and Tennessee Railway, which was primarily used for hauling coal. The Big South Fork Scenic Railway serves as both a tourist attraction and an educational experience, highlighting the cultural and natural history of the region. Blue Heron, also known as Mine 18, is an abandoned coal mining town and was a part of the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company's past operation. The Blue Heron mines operated from 1937 until December 1962, when operations were no longer profitable. During that time, hundreds of people lived and worked in this isolated community on the banks of the Big South Fork River. The Blue Heron mining town is located along the Big South Fork Scenic Railway Tour. Blue Heron was abandoned in 1962, and the buildings were either removed or lapsed into decay. As a result, there were no original buildings standing. Therefore, the community was recreated in the 1980s. Built as an outdoor museum, the new structures are open, metal shells of buildings, referred to as ghost structures, built on the approximate site of the original buildings and made as close to the original size and orientation as possible. The town of Beauty, Martin County, Kentucky. Welcome to Beauty. The town of Beauty, originally named Himmlerville, is located about 3 miles west of the Kentucky-West Virginia state line in Martin County. It was once home to Himmler Coal Company, founded by Martin Himmler and believed to be the only coal company ever organized on a cooperative basis. Many of the town's original residents were from Hungary. Thus, a weekly paper for Hungarian miners was published in the town for several years. Though the town celebrated the Hungarian heritage of its residents, Himmler was proud of his adopted country and insisted that all of the miners and stockholders of Himmlerville Coal Company become American citizens. He hosted an annual 4th of July celebration out of his stunning home in Himmlerville, the namesake. The town of Beauty was originally known as Himmlerville after Martin Himmler, a Jewish Hungarian immigrant who arrived in the U.S. in 1907 with only 13 cents in his pocket. Himmler brought along hundreds of Hungarian immigrants when he came to this country, all of whom arrived with no savings or resources, but found work in the coal mines. Initially, the immigrants worked in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Upon witnessing the way miners were treated, Himmler was determined to run his own coal company, thus the creation of Himmler Coal Company in Martin County, Kentucky. The town was renamed Beauty when the post office was established in 1925. The name change has been attributed to giving the community a more appealing name. It has been suggested that a local tradition began of naming places to align with the characteristics of the landscape in the area. The mine. The town of Himmlerville and Himmler Coal Company were owned by the miners. The town had running water and indoor plumbing, electricity, natural gas, a school, an amusement hall, a clinic, and other amenities not usually found in coal camps. Himmler Coal Company may have been the only cooperative mine in the world where the workers each owned stock in the company and got paid dividends on top of their wages during that period of time. The town, as well as the coal company, were initially very successful. By the mid-1920s, however, the coal boom had subsided, and Himmler Coal wasn't producing enough coal to be profitable. The company then filed for bankruptcy. However, a flood truly brought the end to the town of Himmlerville and Himmler Coal Company, as the town essentially washed away during the flood of June 28, 1928. Most residents moved away after this tragic event. Martin Himmler himself supposedly left town with $4 in his pocket. Notable places. Himmler House was the residence owned by Martin Himmler, which overlooked Buck Creek Road and the current Route 40. Martin Himmler hosted countywide Christmas and Independence Day parties, as well as daily evening activities for miners at Himmler House. An exiled Hungarian government official even took refuge at the house for a time. Presently, the Martin County Historical and Genealogical Society envisions the restored Martin Himmler home to become a center for Magyar, Hungarian immigrant culture, and Kentucky coal mining history. The town of Benham, Harlan County, Kentucky. Welcome to Benham. Benham was another model coal town. Planners and architects of International Harvesters Wisconsin Steel Company of Chicago, IL, laid out the community of Benham in 1909 when purchasing the property. The land was virtually a wilderness covered by virgin timbers, with coal beneath the surface. The plan was to mine the coal and move it to their steel mill in Chicago. By the First World War, around 1,000 miners would be employed in Benham to meet the industrial demands. A Central Park area which was designed to be surrounded by the company stores, schools, medical facilities, and churches. The L&N Railroad expanded rail service from Loyal Kai into Benham in 1911. Most of the company buildings were located facing both the main highway on one side with access to the railroad at the rear. The namesake. The town of Benham was originally known as Yowell due to the name of the post office at that location. It was renamed to Benham for the mountain spur which guarded the community. The mine. Benham was built in 1912 by the Wisconsin Steel Company, a subsidiary of the International Harvester Company. For this reason, Benham is known as the town International Harvester built. I-8 bought or leased some 6,000 acres of coal land and hauled mining supplies in by wagons and teams over the narrow roads. The town was structured around the needs of the coal mining operation. The company provided most of the services, including health care, housing, and even utilities. This setup created a close-knit community where the majority of the residents worked for the coal mines. IH engineers laid out a town in a circle. Around it were the main buildings, the mine offices, a company store, hospital, theater, clubhouse, school, and church, as well as sturdily constructed single and duplex wood frame homes and boarding houses. In addition to local Appalachian miners, African American workers were recruited from the South, and immigrants from Europe also came to work in the coal mines. During the peak coal mining years in the 1920s and 1930s, Benham was a thriving community with a population of around 3,000 people. A 1948 article in an IH publication tells us that there were 520 IH-built houses in the town, many of them 5-room bungalows with a spacious yard and garden. Nearly every person in Benham worked for the IH company, with the exception of the local judge, postmistress, minister, shoemaker, and a few others who were employed by the railroad, hotel, and theater. The teachers at the 1st through 12th grade school were paid in part by IH and part by the county. In 1961, International Harvester transferred Benham to the people who resided there at the time, allowing it to become incorporated as the city of Benham. Important places and buildings. The Kentucky Coal Museum, located in the former company commissary store building, opened in 1994 and serves as a major tourist attraction. The museum showcases the history of coal mining in Kentucky and the lives of miners in towns like Benham and Lynch. 3 stories of exhibits feature the history of coal mining in Kentucky and the life of coal miners and their families. The museum highlights the technological, social, and political history of coal mining, as well as the labor movements and strikes that shaped the region. Visitors can learn about the hardships miners faced, as well as the role coal played in powering America's industrial growth. Miners are further celebrated in the nearby Coal Miners Memorial Park, located on the former site of the coal company's processing, shipping, and rail yard. Another important historical site is the Benham Schoolhouse Inn, which was originally the town's school, built in 1926. After closing as a school, it was repurposed as a historic inn, giving visitors a chance to stay in a building that's a direct link to the town's past. The inn remains a symbol of Benham's efforts to preserve its heritage and repurpose its buildings in creative ways. The Coal Miners Memorial Theater is a new community amenity and another tourist attraction. The original company-built theater, built in 1921, is being rehabilitated as a multifunction facility. This building is used for community meetings, concerts, movies, and performances. Notable people. NBA executive and head coach Bernie Bickerstaff was born in Benham, where both his father and grandfather worked in the coal mines. He attended East Benham High School, where he was the starting point guard of the basketball team. Following his graduation in 1961, Bickerstaff's family moved to Cleveland. He entertained the idea of joining the Army, but instead accepted a scholarship to play basketball at Rio Grande College. He left Rio Grande and worked in a steel mill for a while before returning to again play college basketball at the University of San Diego. After graduating from college, Bickerstaff became an assistant coach, and after 3 seasons assisting, he was named the head coach and rose in the NBA as a coach and executive. Bickerstaff's contributions to the sport, both in coaching and leadership roles, have left a significant mark on the NBA, making him one of the most respected figures in professional basketball. The town of Booneville, Owsley County, Kentucky, welcomed to Booneville. Consisting at the time of only a log courthouse, Booneville became the county seat when Owsley County was formed on May 20th, 1844. Booneville was formally incorporated as a city by the State Assembly on March 1st, 1847. The post office opened in 1844. During the Civil War, Booneville was a crossroads for Union and Confederate regiments. The town was also threatened by Confederate guerrillas, but avoided the destruction. The Owsley County Courthouse burned in January 1929, destroying all early records. Sadly, on January 5, 1967, the courthouse again caught on fire, doing serious damage to the building, the namesake. The town of Booneville was originally known as Moore Station after its chief landowner, Elias Moore, who donated the land for the town. The town was later renamed Boone Station and subsequently changed to Booneville in honor of Daniel Boone. The mines. Significant coal production ceased in Owsley County in 2012. Important places. The Abraham Lincoln Relief Sculpture, locally known as Abe Lincoln Rock or Abraham Lincoln Rock, is located off of Highway 846 in the Conklin community and was carved by a traveling pack peddler named Granville Johnson in the 1930s. The sculpture is in the inventory of folk art in the Smithsonian American Art Museum. Area legend indicates that Johnson arrived in the area ill and needed assistance. The family of John Williams took him in and cared for him on the farm located south of Booneville. Once he began recovering his strength, he took daily walks along the hillside behind the Williams residence. Once he was fully recovered and preparing to leave the area, he revealed the sculpture to his family as his gift for their generosity. The location is now owned by the Owsley County Fiscal Court, but there is no signage. Thus, it's difficult for tourists to locate. Notable people. Earl Combs, Hall of Fame baseball player for the New York Yankees, was born in the unincorporated town of Pebworth, close to Booneville. Combs batted leadoff and played center field on the Yankees' fabled 1927 team, often referred to as Murderers Row. The town of Jackson, Breathitt County, Kentucky. Welcome to Jackson. Breathitt County was created in 1839. At that time, local landowner Simon Cockrell Sr. donated 10 acres of land to become the county seat. This land, located on the north bank of the North Fork of the Kentucky River, became the town of Jackson. The Kentucky Union Railroad reached the city in 1891. This development, along with Jackson's status as a major shipping point for the upper Kentucky River region, brought immense economic growth. Businesses like dry goods centers, a lumber company, and a brickyard thrived in the area. Jackson boomed until the L and N continued the line onto Hazard in Perry County in 1912. A fire on Halloween of 1913 burned down most of the town, the namesake. Jackson was originally known as Breathitt Town, or Breathitt Courthouse, named after the county. However, it was renamed Jackson in honor of President Andrew Jackson in 1845, ironically the same year President Jackson died. The mines. The coal companies mining in Jackson were as follow. Blue Creek Mining Company operated from 1923 to 1932, employing 30 people. Davis Coal Company was in production from 1914 to 1917, employing 20 workers. Imperial Coal Company produced coal from 1909 to 1913 with a workforce of 100 employees. Jackson Block Coal Company operated from 1919 to 1926, employing 40 people. Jackson 4 Seam Mining Company was active from 1927 to 1934, employing 70 workers. Jones Brothers Coal Company mined from 1921 to 1923, employing 40 people. Kentucky Union Coal Company was in operation from 1907 to 1908, employing 125 workers. Kentucky Union Company Mine operated from 1905 to 1906 with 125 employees. Important places: Panbowl Lake. To limit flooding, the Kentucky River was redirected in 1963 by way of a small cut-through through the mountain. Its former channel, a river meander, was left behind as Panbowl Lake, now known as one of the better game fishing lakes in Kentucky. It is abundant in bass and crappie. Cragen Historical Preservation. Nestled within a sharp bend in the North Fork of the Kentucky River near Jackson, the Cragen site is an ancient village burial ground and learning center that spans approximately 3,500 Mipitrisand, revealing a fascinating glimpse into the lives of the 4 ancient people who once inhabited the area. The village offers valuable insights into their customs, skills, and daily activities. Notable people. Ken Paul Mink, at the age of 73, is believed to be the oldest person ever to score in a college basketball game. Mink sank 2 free throws for Roane State Community College in Harriman, Tennessee, in their game against King College on November 3, 2008. Mink attended Jackson's Lee's College in the 1950s, where he played varsity basketball but left the college in 1956 without using up his college eligibility. Mary C. Noble, born in Jackson, 1949, served as the Secretary of the Kentucky Justice and Public Safety Cabinet until retiring in 2021. Noble is also a former Deputy Chief Justice of the Kentucky Supreme Court. Sturgill Simpson, also known as Johnny Blue Skies, is a Grammy-winning singer-songwriter and actor whose genre-defying music contains elements of country, blues, and rock. He was born in Jackson in 1978. Notable events: Bloody Breathitt. Local feuds led the national press to publish stories about Jackson and Bloody Breathitt. Kentucky State Police troopers were dispatched twice in the 1870s and again in 1903 after the assassination of U.S. Commissioner James B. Markham on the courthouse steps to restore order. Breathitt County Honey Festival. Since 1978, the Breathitt County Honey Festival takes place during Labor Day weekend each year. The festival includes live music, inflatables, food and craft vendors, a football tournament, and other honey-themed activities. The town of Cannell City, Morgan County, Kentucky. Welcome to Cannell City. The town of Cannell City was formed in the early 1900s. In 1901, the Ohio and Kentucky Railway tracks were laid through the region, and the Cannell City Post Office opened in 1902. Cannell City became headquarters for the Ohio and Kentucky Railway due to the track ending at the town. The Ohio and Kentucky Railway was owned by the Kentucky Block Cannell Coal Company. Cannell City became a thriving coal, oil, and lumber center. During its heyday, there were grocery stores, a hardware store, post office, mine, bank, blacksmith, and hotel. At that time, the area had a larger population and building count than the present-day county seat of West Liberty. Business thrived until the Cannell Coal Company's resources were depleted and forestry resources of the Licking River played out at the same time. On November 1, 1933, the last train trip was made and the track was scrapped. The namesake. Cannell City was named for the locally abundant cannel coal, containing a high percentage of volatile petroleum compounds that made it a particularly desirable fuel. Cannell City was the home of the largest cannel coal fields in the world, the mines. Both Cannell Coal Company and Kentucky Block Cannell Coal Company operated in the area. Important places. Several remnants of the past still stand in Cannell City, including the beautiful and often photographed Cannell City Union Church. An original caboose and standing bank vault can still be seen at Delancey Park, located in the heart of Cannell City. Notable events. For over 50 years during the last weekend of the month of September, West Liberty, the county seat of Morgan County, has been the home to the Morgan County Sorghum Festival. Downtown West Liberty is transformed into a festival with local and regional artisans and crafters, talented musicians, delicious food vendors, and sorghum producers from the area. The town of Carr Creek, Knott County, Kentucky. Welcome to Carr Creek. Carr Creek was originally composed primarily of families of Scots-Irish descent. Timber and coal were the staples of Carr Creek's economy. However, the town was essentially made up of a school and post office. There was no restaurant, theater, or other facilities for entertainment. Therefore, the only thing for the students of Carr Creek School to do was play basketball. In 1928, the Carr Creek basketball team gained notoriety when they played 4 overtimes and ultimately lost to the Ashland team in the state championship with a score of 13-11. Carr Creek neither committed a foul nor called a timeout during the game. Afterward, the team was invited to compete in a national high school tournament in Chicago. Having no gym to practice in, the boys practiced on a dirt court outside. They also did not have uniforms at the beginning of the season. The team had to raise funds to travel to Chicago, leaving a week early to play exhibition games in Lexington to raise the remaining funds needed for the long train trip to Chicago. When they arrived in Chicago, the team inadvertently got off the train at the wrong stop. Unsure of where they were supposed to stay, they went to the nearest hotel, the Hotel Cooper Carlton, one of the most expensive hotels in the city. The following day, the manager of the national tournament was worried that the Carr Creek team hadn't arrived. He called around town, and finding the team at the swanky hotel, he told them they could not afford for them to stay there. However, the hotel owners knew about the Carr Creek boys and all the national publicity surrounding them and offered to keep them for the duration of the tournament at $1 per night for the entire team. So the boys from the tiny school of only 18 boys and 23 girls stayed in the swankiest, most expensive hotel in Chicago, while the 39 other teams in the tournament slept in dorm rooms at the University of Chicago. Carr Creek School again made it to the state tournament in 1956, this time winning against the Henderson team 72-68. The namesake. The town of Carr Creek was originally known as Dirk due to the post office of the same name, which was established on December 26, 1905. According to local legend, Carr Creek was renamed after a settler from Virginia or perhaps North Carolina, a well-known long hunter named William Carr, who explored the area in the 1770s. The name Carr Creek is in recognition of his contributions as an early pioneer and hunter in the region. The mines. Historically, there were numerous mining operations in Knott County, although specific information is difficult, if not impossible, to locate. 1. Knott County Coal Corporation, operational from 1923 to 1958. 2. Bluebird Mining Company, located in Bluegrass. It operated from 1946 to 1953. 3. L Coal Company, located in Hemlock. It operated from 1910 to 1913. 4. Wisconsin Coal Corporation. The Jeff Mine operated from 1924 to 1929, and the Sassafras Mine operated from 1919 to 1924. Wiscoal, an unincorporated community named after the Wisconsin Coal Company, was located 8 miles south-southwest of Hindman. Perkins Bowling Coal Corporation, located in Sassafras. It operated from 1921 to 1924. 6. Arch Coal, Inc. had numerous operations located throughout Knott County. However, after filing for bankruptcy protection, Arch Coal sold a collection of abandoned mines and other assets. Important places. Carr Creek Post Office. The Carr Creek Post Office was established in 1928, replacing the Dirk Post Office. Carr Creek School. The Carr Creek School was opened in an abandoned storehouse in Dirk in 1919. In 1920, 2 educators, Olive Marsh from Minnesota and Ruth Weston from Boston, were encouraged by Marion Francis to come to Dirk and get the community going in the matter of education. They came with the assistance of the Daughters of the American Revolution to begin teaching. Miss Weston taught primary grades, Mr. Hiram Taylor taught the older children, and Miss Weston acted as secretary. A local resident, 90-year-old Miss Lucy, encouraged, sheltered, and fed the ladies until their patchwork cottage was built by members of the community. With donations of money, labor, and lumber, the schoolhouse was finished in 1922. It contained 4 rooms downstairs and a loft room library. In March of 1927, Miss Marsh and Miss Weston severed their ties with Carr Creek and moved to California. The task of carrying on the school was given to Margaret P. Humes from Jersey Shore, Pennsylvania, and Mr. W. T. Francis. Miss Humes was a wonderful lady. Her wisdom and intelligence were insurmountable, and she loved the mountain children. In April of 1927, Lona Hale, Cora, and Riley Johnson, Lawrence and Oscar Hale, and Chester Back were the first to graduate from Carr Creek High School. As previously mentioned, in 1928, the Carr Creek basketball team won fame throughout the county. The team had a volunteer coach, Oscar Morgan, the manual training teacher. They battled through 3 mountain tournaments in the state and were awarded the Kentucky YMCA Silver Loving Cup for sportsmanship. Kentuckians raised money and sent the team to the national tournament in Chicago, Illinois. Carr Creek was the 36th of 40 teams to be eliminated. In the season's tournaments, they played 18 straight games and never used a substitute nor called a timeout. Between 1928 and 1932, Coach Morgan guided Kentucky to 3 state tournaments. In 1936, construction began on a new stone high school building to further expand and improve classroom conveniences. The site and stone were gifts of Executive Secretary W. T. Francis. Labor was furnished by the U.S. government's Works Progress Administration, WPA, and material assistance was given by the Knott County Board of Education. The launching funds were provided by the DAR of Michigan. The school was completed in 1938. Academics came first at Carr Creek, but basketball continued to be a significant part of the school and the community. Being a community that started a school out of need in 1919, basketball wasn't at that time in anyone's mind. However, because of the interest shown from the boys playing as recreation, the sport of basketball grew from a dirt court in the early 1920s to a famous, well-known tradition in the 1970s. The tradition came about through the years in which Carr Creek was involved in so many famous tournaments and did so well with the talent it played on the courts. In 1948, Carr Creek placed third in the state tournament. In 1956, Carr Creek won the state tournament. And in 1963, Carr Creek won its final big trophy by winning the prestigious Louisville Invitational Tournament. Carr Creek Community Center. Later, Carr Creek Grade and High School, Carr Creek Community Center was located in the community from 1919 until the spring of 1974, its last graduating class. Children from the waters of Carr Fork were then transferred into a new consolidated school, Knott County Central High School in Hindman, Kentucky. Alice Lloyd College, a private work college in Pippa Passes, Kentucky. Alice Lloyd was co-founded by the journalist Alice Spencer Geddes. Lloyd, a native of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and June Buchanan, a native of New York, in 1923. The college was created to provide educational opportunities to the youth of Appalachia, focusing on developing leaders for the region. As a work college, students are required to work part-time regardless of financial situation. They are given jobs such as janitorial staff, office assistant, tutor, craft maker, resident advisor, maintenance, grounds, or working in the cafeteria. In addition to on-campus jobs, students can work at off-campus outreach projects. Students are required to work at least 160 hours per semester. The college is one of 9 work colleges in the United States and one of 2 in Kentucky, Berea College being the other, that have mandatory work-study programs. In the early 1980s, Alice Lloyd transitioned from a junior college to a bachelor's degree granting institution. 95% of Alice Lloyd College graduates are accepted into graduate and professional schools. 75% of Alice Lloyd College graduates are the first in their families to obtain an undergraduate degree. Carr Creek State Park. Located 15 miles southeast of Hazard, Carr Creek State Park covers 750 acres with the longest sand beach in the Kentucky State Park system. Notable people. Alice Spencer. Geddes Lloyd was an American social reformer who founded Alice Lloyd College in Pippa Passes, Kentucky. She worked as a writer, editor, and educator. She supported women's suffrage and was a freethinker who came to the eastern Kentucky mountains from her birthplace in Boston. Early in her career, she was a writer for local newspapers and periodicals. In 1902, Miss Geddes was publisher and editor of the Cambridge Press, the first publication in America with an all-female staff. Dr. June Buchanan was the co-founder of Alice Lloyd College. She arrived on Caney Creek 2 years after Mrs. Lloyd and fell in love with not only Alice Lloyd's mission, but also the people she met in Appalachia. June Buchanan was a native of Syracuse, New York, where she grew up with strict parents. Nevertheless, her parents always strove to teach their girls lessons they could apply in their adult life. Miss June learned how to handle finances through her father and uncle, and her mother taught her how to promote ideas by being the church's chairman of the Foreign Mission Board. With parents who stayed active, Miss June inevitably grew up searching for causes that she could advocate. Margaret P. Humes took over the leadership of Carr Creek School in 1927. Humes was from Jersey Shore, Pennsylvania, but had a deep love for the mountain children, wanting to ensure their success. Under her leadership, the Carr Creek School continued the tradition of the school to provide education as well as host various community activities and events. Humes also accompanied the 1928 boys basketball team to the national tournament in Chicago as their chaperone. Morton Combs, coach and principal at Carr Creek the year the Indians won the state title, is a charter member of the Kentucky High School Athletic Association Hall of Fame. Under his leadership, Carr Creek defeated Central City, Allen County, Wayland, and Henderson to capture what would be the famed school's one and only state championship. Combs finished with a career record of 456 wins and 148 losses over 19 seasons, without a single losing season, and he was named Kentucky Coach of the Year in 1963. Notable events: Findlay Coal Company explosion. This mine explosion occurred on October the 30th, 1961, killing 18. The mine, known as the Hurricane Creek Mine, was located near Hyden. Adkins Coal Company explosion. Another mine explosion occurred on December the 7th, 1981, killing 8. It was a small operation in Potato Branch, near the community of Topmost. The town of Hurricane Creek, Leslie County, Kentucky. Welcome to Hurricane Creek. Hurricane Creek is located about 4 miles southeast of Hyden in Leslie County. The namesake. The town of Hurricane Creek was originally known as Hell for Certain Creek. This distinctive and somewhat ominous name reflected the challenging terrain and rugged conditions in the area during its early settlement period. Over time, the name was changed to Hurricane Creek, which the area remains known as today. The change likely occurred to make the name more socially acceptable and less provocative. The mines. Blue Diamond Coal Company operated several mines throughout eastern Kentucky, including in Leslie County. They were a major player in the regional coal industry. Scotia Coal and Coke Company operated mines in Leslie County, contributing to the local coal production and economic activity. Harlan Collieries Company had both surface and underground mining operations in eastern Kentucky, including in Leslie County. Kentucky Jellicoe Coal Company operated mines in Leslie County, supplying coal to various markets and industries. Important places. Hurricane Gap is a notable geographical feature in Leslie County. Situated near Hurricane Creek, it is known for its scenic views and serves as a natural corridor for hiking and outdoor activities. The gap has historical significance as a passageway through the Appalachian Mountains. Parts of Hurricane Creek and Leslie County are encompassed within the Daniel Boone National Forest. This expansive forest area offers recreational opportunities such as hiking, camping, fishing, and wildlife observation. It plays a crucial role in preserving natural habitats and supporting biodiversity in the region. Notable events. Shortly after noon on December 30th, 1970, a blast ignited coal dust in a mine, causing an explosion that resulted in the deaths of 39 miners. This tragedy has become known as the Hurricane Creek mine disaster. As was often pointed out in coverage of the disaster, it occurred a year to the day after the passage of the Coal Mine Safety and Health Act of 1969. Recovery was complicated by the fact that a foot of snow fell on the rural mountain roads at the time of the accident. The town of Hyden, Leslie County, Kentucky. Welcome to Hyden. The town of Hyden was formed in 1878 and is located at the mouth of Rockhouse Creek at the junction of U.S. Route 421 and Kentucky Route 80 along the middle fork of the Kentucky River. The area was originally settled around the year 1800 by John Rockhouse and Nancy Sizemore. They built a rock house nearly 100 yards from the mouth of the creek, which came to be known as Rockhouse Creek. The namesake. The town was named after State Senator John Hyden, who helped form Leslie County. Senator Hyden reportedly came to the area with dry goods and notions that he traded the settlers for hides, bear, and deer fur, ginseng, and other produce such as feathers and beeswax. He transferred these items via horseback to Jonesville, Virginia, where he would trade and return with more goods. He was very prosperous as well as popular in the area. Hyden won the election to the Senate in 1877 without opposition. The mines. Blue Diamond Coal Company operated numerous mines throughout eastern Kentucky, including Leslie County. They were a major player in the regional coal industry. Scotia Coal and Coke Company, a subsidiary of the Blue Diamond Coal Company, operated mines throughout southeastern Kentucky, including Leslie County. In March 1976, 2 explosions occurred within their mines located in Letcher County, killing 26 miners. The explosions led to the passage of several acts relating to safety in coal mines. The Harlan Collieries Company had operations in eastern Kentucky, including in Leslie County, and played a role in the development of the local coal industry. On 30th December 1970, there was an explosion of coal dust at the Finley Mines southeast of Hyden on Hurricane Creek. 38 miners were killed and 1 survived. Recovery was complicated by the fact that a foot of snow fell on the rural mountain roads at the time of the accident. This disaster occurred in shafts 15 and 16 of a truck mine just outside the town of Hyden, owned by Charles and Stanley Finley, which had opened the previous March on leased land, although their company had been mining in the area for 10 years. The small operation involved about 170 employees. A memorial was built at the site in 2011. Important places. Mary Breckinridge Hospital. Mary Breckinridge Hospital is a modern hospital and clinic named after Mary Breckinridge, a pioneer nurse and midwife. Today, the Mary Breckinridge ARH Hospital is a small 25-bed critical access hospital in Hyden. Notable people. Mary Breckinridge viewed nurse midwifery as central to health care. She organized the Kentucky Committee for Mothers and Babies in 1925. The Frontier Graduate School of Midwifery began in 1939 by the Frontier Nursing Service as a part of its project in the care of the mother and child in rural Kentucky. The Frontier Graduate School of Midwifery enrolled its first class November 1, 1939. Frontier Nursing University has been in continuous operation since that time. In 1925, Breckinridge organized the Kentucky Committee for Mothers and Babies in Leslie County, which in 1928 became the Frontier Nursing Service, FNS. She served as director of the FNS for 37 years, until her death in 1965. The center of FNS was in Hyden in southeastern Kentucky, where a hospital and health center were established in 1928 and a graduate school of midwifery in 1939. Mary Breckinridge received many honors and awards during her life, including an honorary doctorate of law from the University of Kentucky. However, most notable is the honor of a postage stamp issued by the United States Postal Service in 1998. Tim Couch was born in Hyden, Kentucky. As a prep quarterback at Leslie County High School in Hyden, he set a number of national high school records: most pass completions, 872, passing yardage, 12 to 104, touchdown passes, 132, and passing percentage for a season, 75.1. After his senior season in 1995, he was the recipient of Kentucky's Mr. Football Award. ESPN ranked Couch as the 6th best high school athlete ever. Couch also starred on the Leslie County High School basketball varsity team. He scored 36 points per game as a junior, which was the highest average in the state. Couch finished his high school career with 3,023 points. Couch attended the University of Kentucky, where he played for the Kentucky Wildcats football team from 1996 to 1998. During his 1996 freshman year under head coach Bill Curry, he split time as the starting quarterback with Billy Jack Haskins. Curry was fired. After a 1-6 start that season and replacement Hal Mumma announced early that Couch would be the starter in his new pass-oriented air raid offense. In 1997, Couch set several school records as the previously anemic Kentucky offense topped national offensive rankings and finished 5-6 on the season, including a win over W-20 Alabama. During the 1998 season, Couch led Kentucky to 7 wins, including a win on the road at the Metro 21 LSU, and a spot in the Outback Bowl, in which Couch completed 30 of 48 passes for 336 yards and 2 touchdowns, though Kentucky lost to Penn State. Following his junior season in 1998, Couch announced he would leave Kentucky to enter the NFL draft early, where he played 5 seasons as starting quarterback with the Cleveland Bransons. The Osborne brothers, Sonny and Bobby, were bluegrass musicians popular from the 1960s until their retirement in 2005. They quickly became known for their virtuoso instrumentation and tight melodic vocal harmonies. They first made the country chart in 1958 with Once More, performing as a trio with Red Allen. The song featured a novel, inverted stacked harmony. Bobby sang the lead line highest, with Sonny singing baritone, and the third singer, Red Allen, singing tenor as the lowest part. This made Bobby's distinctive voice the lead, and the third voice was somewhat interchangeable. As a result, they could hire other guitarists and singers without changing the overall sound. The high lead vocal trio became their signature, and they used to great effect in the country market with songs like Blame Me, Sweethearts Again, and a remake of the Carter Family's Fair and Tender Ladies. In 1994, the Osborne brothers were inducted into the International Bluegrass Music Association's Hall of Honor. Important events. Mary Breckinridge Festival. Each year on the first Saturday in October, Leslie County celebrates the Mary Breckinridge Festival. Including a parade, food booths, and activities for the whole family, the festival pays homage to the influence of Mary Breckinridge in the region. The town of Jenkins, Letcher County, Kentucky. Welcome to Jenkins. The town of Jenkins was established in 1911 by the Consolidation Coal Company, often nicknamed Consol, and incorporated in 1912. In 1940, Jenkins and the coal camp towns of Dunham and Burdine, located along a 6-mile stretch along the Elkhorn Creek Valley, all merged into the single town of Jenkins, the namesake. The town was named for George Jenkins, a director for the Consolidation Coal Company, the mines. A central coal tipple was located at Dunham to process all of the coal from Consol's mines in the area and load it onto trains, although there were smaller tipples in the auxiliary coal towns. A central power plant was built at Jenkins to provide electricity for all of these coal towns and mines. Consol built a large lake at Jenkins to provide water to its towns, as well as the steam turbines in the central power plant. The people in Burdine, Jenkins, and Dunham worked in mines number 201 through 208. On the other side of the mountain in McRoberts, Consol employees mined coal in mines number 209 to 215. Consol called their Letcher County properties the Elkhorn Division. In 1956, Consolidation Coal Company sold its properties around Jenkins to Bethlehem Steel, who operated them as the Beth Elkhorn Coal Corporation until the 1980s. Important places. The David A. Zagier Coal Railroad Museum is in a historic railroad depot in Jenkins. The museum contains many coal mining tools and other coal town relics such as helmets and script tokens. The museum also contains photographs and news articles from throughout Jenkins' history. Notable people. David A. Zagier dedicated his career to protecting the health and safety of miners as a corporate mining executive, as head of the U.S. Mine Safety and Health Administration, MSHA, and as a community leader. His tenure at MSHA coincided with a period of remarkable progress in U.S. mining safety. In 3 of his years as Assistant Secretary of Labor under President Reagan, Mining fatalities in the coal industry and in the metal and non-metal mining industries decreased to historic lows. Zeger began his mining career with Consolidation Coal Company in Jenkins in 1946, and the David A. Zeger Coal Railroad Museum remains in Jenkins today as a testament to his legacy. Darwin K. Kyle was an Army veteran born in Jenkins who served in World War II and the Korean War. Kyle earned both a Silver and Bronze Star for his heroic actions in France and Germany during WFP, and was presented with a Medal of Honor for his valor in the Korean War. Francis Gary Powers was a pilot who served in the United States Air Force and the CIA. Powers is best known for his involvement in the 1960 U-2 incident when he was shot down while flying a secret CIA spying mission over the Soviet Union. He survived this incident and was a Soviet prisoner for nearly 2 years. Gary Ronnie Stewart was a musician and songwriter born in Jenkins and known for his distinctive vibrato voice and his outlaw country sound influenced by Southern rock. At the height of his popularity in the mid-1970s, Time magazine described him as the king of honky-tonk. Kenneth Clayton Baker was a bluegrass fiddle player born in Berdeen, an unincorporated community near Jenkins. Baker is best known for his 25-year tenure with Bill Monroe and his group, the Bluegrass Boys. The town of Leatherwood, Perry County, KY. Welcome to Leatherwood. Leatherwood was a modern coal camp town built in the wilderness 10 miles from any existing highways or railroads. Development of the town began in 1944. From the main line at Dent, KY, the L&N Railroad built a 10.3-mile spur line up Leatherwood Creek and Clover Fork to the site of the new mining operation. Roads were carved through the surrounding hillsides and houses for company officials and miners. The namesake. The town of Leatherwood was originally named after the Leatherwood coal seam being mined in the area. The mine. Blue Diamond Coal Corporation began underground mining extensively in the Leatherwood seam beginning in 1946. An article published in Coal Age magazine in 1951 stated that since 1945, the Blue Diamond Company has built 323 houses at Leatherwood. Additionally, several other structures were built to facilitate the mining process. A tipple repair shop and a mine building that included the tipple foreman's office, coal analysis laboratory, lamp house, and a bathhouse that could accommodate 500 men were constructed on the site. The same Coal Age article said that in the Leatherwood field, in Perry, Harlan, Leslie, and Letcher counties, there is available to Blue Diamond Coal Company 26,400 acres of the Leatherwood seam. The seam is 5 feet thick and is without continuous partings. The coal is of hard, blocky structure, high in volatile BTUs, and low in ash and sulfur. Important places, Coal Company office. 3 large buildings of native stone comprise the center of the company-owned town. One building housed a retail store and offices. The second building acted as the supply house. The third, the recreation building, included a theater, post office, fountain and lunch counter, beauty shop, barber shop, and pool room. The town of Lynch, Harlan County, Kentucky. Welcome to Lynch. At the turn of the 20th century, deep within the Appalachian Mountains, there was an area so remote that it was not yet named. This small area at the foot of Black Mountain, the highest peak in Kentucky, held an untapped resource: metallurgical coal, which would soon play a key role in the industrialization of the United States. In the early 1900s, U.S. Coal and Coke Company, later to become U.S. Steel, began the exploration of this small area and discovered several coal seams that collectively would soon be considered one of the best gas and coking coals in the United States. The U.S. Coal and Coke Company made the decision to begin mining in this area only to discover that, due to the remoteness, the company would have to supply all the fundamentals for the miner and their families. In the U.S. Steel fashion, it was decided that this little area in the mountains would be developed into a model coal camp. Beginning in early 1917, the United States Coal and Coke Company purchased 40,000 acres of mountainous timberland in the Appalachian Mountain Range, located in eastern Kentucky, and built a coal mining operation here that would last over a period of 60 years. The U.S. Coal and Coke Company built Lynch on part of a 19,000-acre tract of land, which at the time made it the largest coal camp in the world. By the 1940s, Lynch was considered the Cadillac of coal mining towns, with beautiful public buildings, paved streets, indoor plumbing and sewage, plenty of land for recreation, and excellent health care facilities, servicing a population of around 4,000 miners and 10,000 total residents from almost 40 countries. U.S. Steel recruited workers for Lynch largely from Ellis Island. For the time, this was truly a major engineering accomplishment. When the company recognized a shortage of available manpower in the area, they began recruiting immigrants as they arrived into the United States. Also recruited were African Americans from the old plantations of the South looking for a better life. The company utilized this workforce to not only produce some of the finest quality bituminous coal, but to build a town that the miners would be proud to call home. A theater, an impressive 300-room hotel, recreational areas, baseball fields, tennis courts, etc., a hospital, company power plant, schools, churches, and hundreds of modern two-story homes with enough land for a vegetable and flower garden were all built. It was a unique microcosm of the American melting pot, with over 40 languages represented in the early years. Overall, in addition to being a leader in the American Revolution, Lynch was known for its quality health care, education, housing, and social services. The namesake. This remote area in the foothills of Black Mountain became Lynch, named for Thomas Lynch, the president of U.S. Coal and Coke at that time the area was developed. The town of Lynch became incorporated in 1963. The mines the C, or Darby and B, or Kellyoka seams averaged 5 feet thick and were considered to be some of the highest quality metallurgical coal in the world. Mine number 31 set the world's record in 1923 for coal production in a 9-hour shift when miners produced 12,120 tons of coal. Active coal mining in Mine 31 ceased in the early 1960s and the mine closed. In the late 1970s, the 2 main haulage tunnels were rehabilitated to around 1,800 feet in the mountain, where they intercepted a shaft to an upper coal seam and the surrounding mine area sealed off. A belt conveyor was installed in one tunnel to transport coal to a new coal silo, where coal was loaded on trains to be transported to a central preparation plant. The portal area operated in this manner until the early 1990s, when mining ceased in the upper seams. Important places, portal. 31 Exhibition Mine. In 1917, U.S. Coal and Coke Coaters, U.S. Steel, opened Mine 31 in Lynch. In 1996, Arch Coal, Inc., the then owner of the site, donated the property to Harlan County for public use. After 13 years of fundraising, engineering, and construction, the Southeast Education Foundation, INCAS, CEFI, opened the Portal 31 exhibition mine to the public in 2009. CEFI is a nonprofit organization created in 1981 with the exclusive purpose of supporting Southeast Community College of the Kentucky Community and Technical College System and the Tri-City communities of Cumberland, Benham, and Lynch, which are contiguous. Interactive cast figures in the mine tell visitors the story of Kentucky coal mining. While riding a specially built man trip on light rail, simulated mining scenes demonstrate how working conditions improved as a result of technological innovations. The Kentucky chapter of the American Council of Engineering Companies, ACEC, awarded Portal 31 with its Grand Conceptor Award in March of 2010 to qualify it for the national competition. The project was then selected for an honor award as one of the top 24 out of 163 entries throughout the nation engineering projects by ACEC as preeminent engineering achievements for 2010. Judging for the prestigious Engineering Excellence Awards, often referred to as the Academy Awards of Engineering, is conducted by a distinguished panel of 25-30 engineers and architects, along with representatives from government, media, and academia. Criteria for awards include uniqueness and originality, technical, social, and economic value, complexity, and success of the projects in meeting goals. U.S. Steel built numerous buildings as part of its development of a company town to support the coal mining operations, many of which still stand to this day. Some of the notable buildings constructed by U.S. Steel and Lynch include 1. Coal tipple. One of the largest coal tipples in the world at the time, where coal was sorted and loaded into rail cars for shipment. 2. Powerhouse. Provided electricity for the mines in the town, essential for both industrial operations and residential life. 3. Central office. U.S. Steel's administrative headquarters for operations in Lynch, often referred to as the company office building. 4. Miners' housing. U.S. Steel built hundreds of homes for the miners and their families, designed in various styles ranging from simple cottages to more elaborate homes for managers. 5. Lynch Hospital, a medical facility built to serve miners and their families, offering both emergency and routine health care. 6. Company store, a general store where miners and their families could purchase groceries, clothing, and other necessities. Many coal towns had such stores that were central to the community. 7. Lynch High School, constructed by U.S. Steel to provide education for their children of miners. 8. Churches. U.S. Steel built several churches for various denominations to serve the religious needs of the community. Most notable is the St. Mary's Catholic Church, which served a diverse congregation, including many immigrants from Eastern Europe, Italy, and Ireland. The Catholic workers brought with them their religious traditions, and U.S. Steel supported the establishment of the church to foster a sense of community and stability in the town. The church was a place where families could worship and gather for social events, which helped to solidify community bonds. 9. Recreational facilities. These included a clubhouse, movie theater, and sports. Fields to provide leisure activities for the residents of Lynch. 10. The U.S. Steel Bathhouse was opened in 1920. This building served as the place for the miners to get clean following their shifts underground. During the heyday of mining, over 1,000 men could use the bathhouse facilities simultaneously. Notable people. Although MLB Hall of Famer Earl Combs was born in nearby Pebworth, Kentucky, his ties to the Harlan County region are significant. Combs was a star outfielder for the New York Yankees and was a key member of the famous Murderers Row team of the 1920s. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1970. While not directly from Lynch, the area's coal towns, including Lynch, have long claimed Combs as a regional figure of pride. The town of Manchester, Clay County, Kentucky. Welcome to Manchester. The town of Manchester was founded as the seat of the newly formed Clay County in 1807 on a 10-acre parcel near the Lower Goose Creek Salt Works. The historic salt works in Manchester were established due to the presence of many salt springs in the area, and the production of salt led to Manchester becoming a major trade center. During the Civil War and thereafter, the salt works became a point of contention and led to long-term feuds and skirmishes, including the Baker-White feud, which started in the 1820s and continued until 1932. The feud claimed roughly 850 lives, the deadliest such struggle east of the Mississippi. The namesake. Clay County was named after Green Clay of Virginia, a Virginia legislator and later hero of the War of 1812. When the county seat was founded, the county clerk stipulated the town be named Greenville in his honor. However, because a town named Greenville already existed in Muhlenberg County, a new name had to be chosen, and the town was officially renamed Manchester in December of 1807. The most credible explanation for this new choice of name is that the town's founders, members of the White, Garrard, and Gilbert families, envisioned the creation of an industrial city comparable to Manchester, England. The mines. Manchester Coal Company operated mines in the Manchester area, directly contributing to the local economy and employment opportunities. It was part of the network of coal companies that helped shape the industrial landscape of the region. Blue Diamond Coal Company was also a prominent coal company operating in eastern Kentucky, including Clay County. Their mines were located in various parts of the county, contributing to local employment and economic activity. Island Creek Coal Company operated mines throughout eastern Kentucky, including in Clay County. They were known for their extensive operations and impact on local communities. Red Bird Coal Company operated mines in Clay County, including near Manchester. They were involved in both surface and underground mining operations, reflecting the diversity of mining techniques used in the area. Important places. Historic Goose Creek Salt Works Pioneer Village. The first settlement in Clay County was at the site of the Langford Salt Works. Salt was one of the most important industries in Kentucky at the time, as made clear by legislative acts in the early 1800s that funded roads from the Wilderness Road to the salt works before Clay County was established. The Legislative Act of December 1806 that called for the creation of Clay County in April 1807 stipulated that the county and circuit courts would meet in the cabin of Robert Baker, which was one of the cabins situated at the Langford Works. From then until the establishment of Manchester several months later, the community around the Langford Salt Works, by then being called the Goose Creek Salt Works locally, operated as the seat of government for the new county. This site, the most historic in Clay County and one of the most historic in southeast Kentucky, was located at the point where the old Warriors Path crossed Goose Creek at a ford, later called Gillian Ford, at the mouth of Tanyard Branch, the stream that drained what came to be known as the Y Hollow in present-day East Manchester. In 2009, the Clay County Genealogical and Historical Society, with President Charles House, in conjunction with the City of Manchester and Mayor Carmen Lewis, established an interpretative recreation of the little village around the salt works. The City of Manchester donated the Jesse Cotton Cabin and funded the disassembling of it and 2 other log structures, moving them all to the site and reassembling them there. Funds were secured by the Historical Society to put the structures under a roof, erect fencing, and install 2 large interpretive signs telling the history of Clay County. Funds donated by the Baker and White families allowed for the purchase and installation of bronze signs detailing their families' roles in the establishment of Clay County. The centerpiece of the recreated village is the Jesse Cotton Cabin, one of the oldest structures of its kind in Kentucky. It represents Robert Baker's cabin, the site of the first county government in April 1807. The Cotton Cabin is estimated to be between 175 and 220 years old. Other structures donated by the White family of Manchester represent Hugh White's store, established in 1806, quarters of slaves who made the salt, and homes of the first residents of Manchester after its renaming in December 1807. Most recently, the village has been home to the annual Saltworks Appalachian Homecoming Festival, sponsored by the Stay and Clay Group. The organization erected a stage that is used for concerts and plays, created parking facilities, and provided landscaping for the site. Redbird Crest Trail. The Redbird Crest Trail is a popular destination for outdoor enthusiasts, offering scenic views and rugged terrain suitable for hiking, biking, and off-road vehicle riding. It spans approximately 70 miles through the Redbird District of Daniel Boone National Forest, providing opportunities for recreational activities in a natural setting. Notable people: Governor Bert T. Combs, Kentucky's 50th and widely considered Kentucky's most progressive governor, was a champion of school integration as well as education in general. He was born and raised on Beech Creek, schooled at Oneida Baptist Institute, and is buried at the Beech Creek Cemetery, scene of the largest state funeral in Kentucky history upon his death. Al Cornett was a well-known bluegrass musician and banjo maker who lived in Manchester. Brigadier General Theophilus Toulmin Garrard was one of Clay County's leading salt makers and a hero of the Civil War for his brave leadership at the battles of Perryville, Kentucky, Vicksburg, Mississippi, and numerous other battles. Garrard, who was prominent in local political affairs, continued to wield influence locally and statewide until his death. General Hugh White, patriarch of the powerful White family of salt makers, was instrumental in putting Clay County on the map with the purchase of the Old Collins Salt Works in 1804 and established what was, for a while, Kentucky's most important industry. David Yancey Little was a famous Manchester lawyer who is credited with being the father of Kentucky education, due to his efforts in providing free education to Kentucky's schoolchildren after the Civil War. Colonel Daniel Garrard was the father of General T.T. Garrard and son of Kentucky's second governor, James Garrard. He was instrumental, along with General Hugh White, in establishing the salt industry. Colonel Garrard distinguished himself by leading a significant number of Clay County men to the Northwest Territories during the War of 1812. Martha Hogg was a businesswoman who donated much of the land where Oneida Baptist Institute and the town of Oneida were built. Hogg, with her husband, C.L. Cold Iron, owned what became the legendary Webb Hotel in Manchester. Following her husband's death, she became one of the county's leading business people, despite laws that curtailed such activity by women. Nancy Potter was also at a disadvantage in business because she was female. Upon the death of her husband, Robert, she convinced the courts to declare her a femme sole, allowing her to take over the family business. She turned the business into a significant real estate and financial empire in the late 1800s. Colonel Reuben May was a salt maker, postmaster at Mount Welcome, Goose Rock, and an officer in the 8th Kentucky Infantry in the Civil War. He went on to lead the 7th Kentucky at Vicksburg after his friend Colonel T.T. Garrard was promoted to Brigadier General. John White, son of General Hugh White, was one of the early Manchester lawyers who went on to the state legislature, then to the U.S. Congress, where he served as Speaker of the House of Representatives, perhaps the highest office ever attained by a Clay Countian. Notable events: Manchester Courthouse Shootout. One of the most infamous events in Manchester's history was the Courthouse Shootout on March 7, 1937. During a trial involving the Baker-Howard feud, a gunfight erupted inside the Clay County Courthouse, resulting in several deaths and injuries. This shootout drew national attention to Appalachia as the feuds of the era became more prominent. Redbird Purchase Dispute. The Redbird Purchase was a controversial land transaction in the early 20th century involving the purchase of land in Clay County by the Redbird Coal Company, leading to disputes over land rights and ownership between local residents and the coal company. This dispute exemplified the tensions and conflicts that sometimes arose between coal companies and local communities over land use. The town of Middlesboro, Bell County, Kentucky. Welcome to Middlesboro. The area now known as Middlesboro was originally inhabited by Native American tribes, most notably the Shawnee. The first European known to have visited the area was Gabriel Arthur in 1674. He was later followed by Thomas Walker in 1750 and Daniel Boone in 1769. Middlesboro began as Yellow Creek and grew as an iron and coal center after its official founding as a city in the 1880s. The town sits just inside the Cumberland Gap along U.S. Route 25E. It is 1 mile west of the Cumberland Gap and 8 miles south of Pineville. Middlesboro is located inside a 3-mile-wide crater in the earth, which was created by a meteorite an estimated 300 million years ago. The crater is one of the few known impact craters in the United States and adds a unique scientific and natural aspect to the area's history. The namesake. The town of Middlesboro was originally known as Middlesbrough, presumably derived from the town of Middlesbrough, England, either after a local contest selected it as the best entry or after the hometown of the brothers who owned the local English hotel. Middlesboro was founded by Alexander Allen Arthur, a resource developer with the vision of creating a major industrial city in the area due to the coal mining and iron production boom. Arthur was born on August 30th, 1846 in Glasgow, Scotland, to a wealthy and connected family. He and his wife, Mary Forrest, immigrated to the United States in 1879 and settled in Boston, where Arthur secured a position as a representative for an English-owned steel company. By 1886, he had transferred to the Richmond and Danville Railroad Company and was sent to survey the Cumberland Gap to assess the feasibility of new railroad extensions to the area. Upon his arrival, Arthur quickly discovered that not only would it be possible to snake a rail line through Yellow Creek Valley, but also that the area offered abundant natural resources, with acres of dense forests and rich seams of coal and iron lacing through the mountains. He carried this profitable news back to his professional network in the East and quickly assembled a capable team of investors to back his endeavor. The group dubbed itself the Gap Association, and Arthur took them back to Yellow Creek Valley in the summer of 1886, bringing along British geographers from prominent steel interests in England. Arthur had, within a few months, entranced British investors by promising the growth of a magic city in the Yellow Creek Valley. In 1887, the investors formed the American Association, intending to fully back Arthur's development project. They invested $20 million and bought over 100,000 acres in the area. The town of Middlesboro was established, characterizing the industrial boom towns of the frontier. Railroad lines were laid and workers poured in, settling in so-called company towns. Arthur planned and built an extravagant downtown district where wealthy businessmen and speculators could drink, gamble, and deal in high-end hotels and bars. The iron ore of the valley turned out to be of a lower quality than anticipated, and while it could still be sold as brittle pig iron, the profits were lower than projected. Then disaster struck in 1890 when a fire destroyed much of the city's downtown area, which the American Association rebuilt at a tremendous expense. The year's tribulations were worsened by the closing of the Baring Brothers banking firm, which handled most of the association's finances. Another temporarily crippling blow fell with the onset of the Panic of 1893, a 4-year economic depression that resulted in severe inflation for the American dollar. The American Association collapsed entirely, with many of the investors blaming Arthur's extravagant overspending. The mines. One of the earliest companies founded by Alexander Allen Arthur was Middlesboro Mining and Improvement Company, which was involved in coal mining and the development of the area known as Middlesboro. Notable places: Cumberland Gap National Historical Park. The Cumberland Gap is a key passage through the Appalachian Mountains and was historically significant as a route used by Native Americans, early explorers, and settlers moving westward. The park offers stunning vistas, hiking trails, and a rich variety of flora and fauna. Visitors to the Cumberland Gap can explore the Hensley Settlement, Gap Cave, and Pinnacle Overlook, which provides panoramic views of Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee. House made of coal. In 1926, over 42 tons of coal were used to build a house now occupied by the Middlesboro Chamber of Commerce. In 1988, a tornado blew away the back of the house, and it was replaced with vinyl siding. Therefore, only a portion of the building is presently made of coal. Notable people. Lee Majors is an actor best known for his roles in television series such as The $6 Million Man and The Fall Guy. Although Majors was born in Michigan, he moved to Middlesboro when he was 2 years old and graduated from Middlesboro High School. Majors gained fame for his portrayal of iconic characters in popular TV shows during the 1970s and 1980s, making him a well-recognized figure in American pop culture. Notable events. Cumberland Gap Tunnel opening. The Cumberland Gap Tunnel, a vehicular tunnel through the Cumberland Mountains, opened in 1996. The tunnel spans the border between Kentucky and Tennessee, passing through the Cumberland Gap National Historical Park. The tunnel improved transportation and safety, providing a more direct and efficient route through the mountains while preserving the historical significance of the Cumberland Gap. The town of Peach Orchard, Lawrence County, Kentucky. Welcome to Peach Orchard. The coal town of Peach Orchard was the first coal town in the Big Sandy Valley. There were actually two Peach Orchard towns, one known as Old Peach Orchard, the other known as New Peach Orchard. Old Peach Orchard was located just north of present-day Richardson along the banks of the Lavazza Fork. New Peach Orchard was located along Nats Creek, where the town of Richard was built as a railroad for coal being produced. Peach Orchard was located about 15 miles south of Louisa and became a prominent coal mining town in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The town was home to several coal mines, providing employment to many residents and attracted workers from other areas. The namesake. The town was first called Mellenburg in honor of William H. Mellon, the first superintendent of Peach Orchard Coal Company, who helped develop many of the town's original structures. However, the name was later changed because of the Peach Orchard vein of coal in which the miners were working. The mines. Coal mining was introduced to Peach Orchard by Judge Archibald Borders, who was a farmer, merchant, and the first judge of Lawrence County. Borders was instrumental in opening the merchant trade in Peach Orchard. He also built the Big Sandy, a river steamboat used by General James Garfield to carry supplies to Pike County during the war. Due to arrangements made by Borders, investors George Carlisle, R.B. Bowler, and other capitalists came to the area from Cincinnati and developed mines. Borders sold nearly 2,000 acres of his property to allow for the creation of these mining operations. In 1847, Peach Orchard Coal Company was formed, and William H. Mellon was hired as superintendent to develop the mining operation. The company imported its own sawmill, and while one group of men felled the forest, another sawed the lumber. A row of white frame cottages was constructed along the riverbank, while others extended up the hollow. These houses were described as being of superior quality. The residence constructed a short time later for William H. Mellon was said to have been equal to the suburban mansions of Cincinnati. Peach Orchard Coal Company built a number of other structures around the town, including a general store, church, and school. The school building was a white frame structure like the miners' homes and was equipped with good seats and ventilation. In addition, a grist mill was erected to grind wheat and corn in order to provide bread for the people and food for the work animals. The mill was the best of its kind in the area, with nearly all farmers within a radius of 20 miles bringing their grain to be ground. Coal was tipped into barges to await a rise in the river sufficient to carry it to market. In 1859, the company invited John Floyd, a former governor of Virginia who owned coal land along the Tug Fork, to join them in an effort to slackwater both rivers. The Tug River and Big Sandy River formed the boundary line between what was then the western part of Virginia and Kentucky. Meetings were held at Peach Orchard and at Catlettsburg. An engineer by the name of Ledbetter, who had been engaged in a similar project on the Muskingum River in Ohio, reported the practicability of such an undertaking. However, the outbreak of the Civil War interrupted not only the plans for improvements in transportation, but also put an end to all operations at Peach Orchard. The last barge of coal was shipped early in the spring of 1861, and Mellon soon moved his family back to Cincinnati. He and several of the other officials joined the Union Army and never returned to Lawrence County. Henry Denby served as superintendent during the war period. The mill and the store were kept in operation for some time, but coal mining was not resumed on a large scale due to the great loss of boats on snags and rocks, and because there was not enough water to float the barges during summer months. Denby was succeeded by George S. Richardson, a businessman from Massachusetts. During his superintendency, the company store operated on a large scale, and the mills were kept busy grinding grain for the farmers. The mines were profitable during Richardson's tenure, which included the construction of a standard gauge railroad from the Ohio River to Peach Orchard. The railroad was completed in 1882, ushering in a new mining era. The Great Western Mining and Manufacturing Company was formed and located in what became known as New Peach Orchard, soon employing 556 miners. The Palace Hotel was built in New Peach Orchard and became a focal point of the town. Additional construction included a church, school, large general store, railroad station, and post office. Telephone service began in 1890, with streetlights being installed in 1891. Immigrants from Italy and Hungary arrived to work in the mines. Mining ceased in Old Peach Orchard in 1891, and in 1893, the Knights of Labor held a strike for over a month, seriously disrupting production in New Peach Orchard. The Depression severely damaged the Great Western Mining and Manufacturing Company. Peach Orchard Coal Company began controlling the mine in 1894, but had limited success. Despite investments in new equipment, production declined, and by 1908, only 40 employees remained. Following World War II, strip mining operations took place in Lawrence County. In 1970, a firm from Texas Surface mined along Nats Creek, where Old Peach Orchard was located. During this strip mining, both Old and New Peach Orchard were destroyed in the reclamation process. Notable events: 39th Kentucky Mounted Infantry. The 39th Kentucky Mounted Infantry was organized in the fall of 1862 at Old Peach Orchard. The volunteers for this regiment were drawn from the counties bordering the Big Sandy Valley, but some came from as far away as Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina. While the 39th did not participate in any of the Civil War's major battles, it saw much service in combating the numerous guerrilla bands, as well as regular Confederate forces, deep in the Appalachian Mountains. Some of the battles and skirmishes that the 39th did participate in include the Second Battle at Cynthiana, Harrison County, Kentucky, the battle at Licking Meadows, Magoffin County, Kentucky, also known as Puncheon Creek or Half Mountain, the first and second battles at Saltville, Virginia, the Johnson County Boat Fight, Terman's Ferry, and a host of other smaller skirmishes. The town of Pineville, Bell County, Kentucky. Welcome to Pineville. Pineville is one of the oldest settlements in Kentucky. It served as the crossing point on the Cumberland River and was a key location during the early settlement of the area. The town of Kohler was originally part of Pineville. Pineville is located at the crossing of the Cumberland River by the Wilderness Road. It was established as Cumberland Ford in 1781 and formed part of Governor Isaac Shelby's land tracts. When Bell County was formed in 1867, Cumberland Ford was formally laid off. Local landowner J.J. Gibson's 1869 land grant permitted it to be selected as the county seat, with the courthouse being completed in 1871. The settlement was renamed Pineville in 1870 and formally incorporated in 1873. The namesake. Pineville was named after a large pine tree that stood near the Bell County Courthouse. The mines. 2 companies operated mines near Pineville: Pine Mountain Iron and Coal Company, later National Coal and Iron Company, and Straight Creek Coal Mining Company. Pine Mountain Iron and Coal Company was the area's original coal company that developed the town of Pineville. The completion of the railroad in 1888 created a boom, including the building of the first hotel, known as the Pineville Hotel, as well as churches, a school, businesses, and residential housing. Once the town was developed, the Straight Creek mines were opened at the forks of the 2 Straight Creeks. Pine Mountain Iron and Coal Company fell upon difficult financial times, and in 1896 it was purchased at a public sale by a company organized as National Coal and Iron Company. National Coal and Iron assets included 15,000 acres of choice mineral and timber lands, as well as 300 lots in the incorporated city of Pineville. National Coal and Iron's operations began in 1898. Theodore Harris, the president of the Louisville Banking Company, became the president. Maxwell S. Baker, a member of the Louisville Bar, was vice president and general manager. Samuel H. Stone was secretary to treasurer, and W. R. Wood was superintendent in charge of the mining operations. Coal development went to Walls End, up Straight Creek, 4 Mile Creek, Greasy Creek, and Big Clear Creek. Later, development continued up Cumberland River to the Harlan County line and moved up the left fork of Straight Creek into the Redbird area. The coal was high-grade steam, domestic, gas, and coking coal. This coal became known on the market as Straight Creek Coal Mining Company. There were 200 coke ovens in connection with the plant, none of which ran at their full capacity. There were also valuable deposits of iron ore on the property that were not actively worked. Important places. Pine Mountain State Resort Park. Located near Pineville, this park offers stunning views of Pine Mountain and provides opportunities for hiking, birdwatching, and enjoying the outdoors. It also has a lodge and cabins for visitors. Cumberland Gap National Historical Park. While not directly in Pineville but nearby, Cumberland Gap National Historical Park is a significant historical site. It marks the passage used by Native Americans, pioneers, and settlers moving westward. The park offers hiking trails, scenic overlooks, and historical exhibits. Bell County Historical Society and Museum. Situated in Pineville, this museum showcases the history and culture of Bell County, including exhibits on coal mining, local industries, and the people who shaped the area's history. Chained Rock. Legend has it that many children of Pineville had trouble sleeping at night because they were afraid that the large rocks that loomed over the city on Pine Mountain would break free and smash into the town. Parents of these children invented the story that the rocks were chained to the mountain, preventing them from falling. Before long, the story of the chained rock spread to neighboring communities, and people started showing up in town inquiring about the rocks' whereabouts. In 1933, 50 local citizens, plus members of the Civilian Conservation Corps, the Kiwanians, and the Boy Scouts, assembled the Chained Rock Club with the express purpose of turning folklore into a reality. A publicity stunt they hoped would generate added tourist revenue for the park and town. On June 24th, the club obtained an obsolete steam shovel from a Virginia quarry. The machine's chain weighed 2,500 and 3,000 LEBs and had to be cut in half before a 4-mule team could pull each portion up the mountain in 2 trips. When the mules gave out, the chained rock club's 50 members carried the chains the rest of the way. Atop the mountain, the crew welded the chain back together and stretched it 101 feet across the abyss. It is anchored at each end with steel pegs, 1 to 2 x 24 inches, sunk into holes, star drilled by hand. The publicity stunt was a smashing success, and over 6,000 daily newspapers reported the accomplishment of the Chained Rock Club. Today, visitors driving through Pineville can look up at the Big Rock, 200 feet long and 75 feet wide, and see the chain which protects the city. A hiking trail within Pine Mountain State Resort Park also leads to Chain Rock, providing a magnificent view of Pineville and the surrounding area. Boone's Ridge. A national tourism destination scheduled to come online in 2025 will offer diverse attractions and activities that deliver something for everyone. Boone's Ridge is located near Pineville through the Cumberland Gap and near Daniel Boone's Wilderness Road. Boone's Ridge will have many amenities, attractions, and dining options. Wildlife is abundant in the area, with free-ranging elk, over 260 species of birds, black bears, white-tailed deer, and bobcats. Notable people. Logan Reed Patterson, an American competition swimmer who represented the United States at the 1956 Summer Olympics, was born in Pineville, Kentucky on July 2, 1932. He attended the University of Georgia, where he swam for the Georgia Bulldogs swimming and diving team in National Collegiate Athletic Association (NCAA) competition from 1951 to 1954. He won the NCAA National Championship in the 100-yard freestyle in 1953, setting the American record during the meet. Patterson won 8 SEC titles during his tenure at Georgia. He also set 6 SEC records while in Athens: the 50, 100, and 220-yard freestyles, the 100 and 200-yard backstrokes, and the 150-yard individual medley. Patterson finished 4th in the event final of the 100-meter freestyle at the 1956 Summer Olympics in Melbourne, Australia. He briefly held the Olympic record in the event after his first heat. He later held the world record in the 50-meter freestyle and the 200-meter freestyle relay. He held the American record in the 400-meter freestyle and the 400-meter medley relay. Patterson was inducted into the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame in 1984 and the University of Georgia Circle of Honor in 1997. He passed away on January 15, 2014 at the age of 81. Notable events: Pineville Coal Strike, 1932. This strike involved coal miners protesting working conditions and wages in the midst of the Great Depression. It was a significant event in the labor history of Bell County and impacted the broader coal mining industry in Kentucky. Kentucky Mountain Laurel Festival. The Kentucky Mountain Laurel Festival, KMLF, is an annual event held in Pineville, typically taking place in late May. It began in 1931 and is one of Kentucky's oldest festivals. The festival was originally conceived as a way to promote tourism and celebrate the natural beauty of the area, particularly the mountain laurel flower that is native to the region. The KMLF features a variety of activities, including beauty pageants, parades, concerts, arts and crafts exhibitions, and historical reenactments. One of the highlights of the festival, though, is the crowning of the Kentucky Mountain Laurel Queen. Young women from the region participate in a pageant where judges select a queen based on criteria such as poise, talent, and knowledge of the area. The town of Red Ash, Whitley County, Kentucky. Welcome to Red Ash. Red Ash is located about 2 miles north of the Kentucky-Tennessee state line in Whitley County, the namesake. Long before the town was settled, the Cherokee and Shawnee tribes roamed these lands, calling it Gah-Gah-Ayo, meaning Red Earth. This ultimately became known as red ash. The mines. The first mine in red ash opened in the late 1800s, marking the beginning of a mining boom that would transform the area. As more mines were established, the town flourished, attracting workers and their families seeking a better life in the coal industry. One of the most notable mines in red ash was the Deep Vein Mine, renowned for its exceptionally high-quality coal. Miners toiled deep underground, enduring grueling conditions, to extract the coveted black diamonds that fueled the region's economy. Notable mining companies in the area included Proctor Coal Company and Red Ash Coal Company. Proctor Coal Company operated twice, first in 1904 with approximately 275 employees, and then again from 1910 to 1925 with around 200 employees. Red Ash Coal Company operated from 1910 to 1928 and also employed approximately 200 people. These companies played significant roles in the mining activity of the region during the early 20th century. Important places. Not far from the mines stood the offices of the Red Ash Coal Company, a dominant force in the local economy. The company's headquarters were housed in a grand red brick building that served as a symbol of prosperity and power. From here, executives oversaw operations, negotiated contracts, and wielded influence over the town's affairs. Notable people. John Caldwell, known as Coal Baron Caldwell, was a charismatic entrepreneur who founded the Red Ash Coal Company and played a pivotal role in shaping the town's growth. His business acumen and ambitious vision turned red ash into a thriving hub of coal production. Notable events. In 1900, red ash experienced a mine explosion that killed 46 workers, many of whom were buried at the Red Ash Cemetery. The town of Royalton, Magoffin County, Kentucky. Welcome to Royalton. Royalton is an unincorporated community in Magoffin County, Kentucky, lying along Route 7 southeast of the county seat of Salyersville in Magoffin County. It was established as a company town by the Dawkins Lumber Company of Ashland, Kentucky, who opened a mill in the area on August 1, 1920. The company established a railroad, known as the Dawkins Line, in order to transport lumber. When the rail corridor was abandoned, it ultimately was converted into the Dawkins Line Rail Trail, which opened in 1913. The post office opened in 1920. The namesake. Royalton was named in honor of the Royal Bank of Canada, which financed Dawkins Lumber Company. The mine. Royalton Coal Company was formed by brothers James A. Larkin and D.C.B. Larkin in 1900. Royalton Coal was instrumental in the development of the town of Royalton by providing jobs for miners and their families. Important places. The Dawkins Line Rail Trail is a 36-mile rail trail throughout Johnson, Breathitt, and Magoffin counties in Kentucky. The multi-use trail is suitable for biking, walking, and horseback riding. The trail's northern end begins at KY Route 1428 and Dixie Drive in Hager Hill in Johnson County, and it stretches to Mineshaft Road in Evanston in Breathitt County. The trail is ADA accessible. Notable people. Samuel Wilbur Hager was a politician who served as the 14th Kentucky State Treasurer from 1900 to 1904 and Kentucky State Auditor from 1904 to 1908. Hager lived in Magoffin County as a child after his family moved to Salyersville in order for his father to work in the lumber business. The town of Stone, Pike County, Kentucky. Welcome to Stone. The community of Stone was established in 1912. Stone is located just across the Tug Fork from Williamson, WV, and upstream from Belfry, KY, along Pond Creek. The namesake. Stone was named for Galen Stone, the chairman of the board for Pond Creek Coal Company. The mines. The Pond Creek Coal Company was formed in 1912 and later sold in 1922 to a subsidiary of Ford Motor Company known as Fordson Coal Company. Henry Ford purchased the company in order to produce coal to assist in the powering of his automotive industry. Fordson Coal employed as many as 1,500 people and was one of the largest bituminous coal operations in Appalachia at that time. This acquisition included more than 600 houses in an 8-mile stretch from the communities of Hardy to McVeigh. Once the managers from Ford arrived from Detroit, upon surveying the property, they immediately began making improvements. All the houses were painted slate gray on the exterior and off-white on the interior. A red brick theater was built in the central commercial district, including a pool room, dry goods store, and restaurant. Ford raised the base pay to $5 a day, well above the prevailing wage of $3 a day. Employees were encouraged to purchase Ford automobiles, and managers' homes were improved to include a garage. Ford rewarded hard work and efficiency. By 1930, Norfolk and Western had installed rail, rows of company houses, and a commercial center, including a company store, the company offices, and a YMCA, as well as the mine sites. Stone had over 1,000 residents, having become an important center for mining communities along Pond Creek. Stone was self-sufficient, having a powder house, concrete tipple, machine ships, and a warehouse. The company used modern mine cars and electric locomotives instead of men and mules to mine the coal. The community contained a 200,000-gallon water tank, oil storage buildings, and an ice plant. Following the stock market crash of 1929, production at Ford Automotive slowed and halted on occasion. In the early 1930s, Ford Motor Company began financial restructuring, which resulted in the sale of many subsidiary companies. In 1926, Lawrence and Lewis Tierney of Bluefield, WV purchased Fordson Coal and renamed it Eastern Coal Company. They remained in operation until 1968, when the operations were acquired by Pittston and subsequently acquired by Massey Energy in 1993. Important places. The Stone Heritage Museum contains exhibits preserving artifacts from throughout Stone's coal history, especially related to the Pond Creek Coal Company. The museum contains mining memorabilia, photographs, news clippings, family histories, and more. The Red Robin Building is a historic 3-building complex. The Fordson Coal Company store was located in the building to the far left that is now referred to as the Store Building. There's now a museum and visitor center that focuses on the history of the community and its beginnings as a coal camp. The office building in the middle housed the operation offices for the company, and the company doctor's office also was located in this building. The theater building to the far right is the longest of the 3 buildings. The side of this building still shows the Eastern Coal Corporation banner. The town of Van Lear, Johnson County, Kentucky. Welcome to Van Lear. Van Lear, located about 4 miles southeast of Paintsville on Miller's Creek, was founded in 1909. It was the largest mining community in Johnson County during the early 20th century. Van Lear owes its existence to the efforts of John Caldwell Calhoun Mayo. In 1887, Mayo came to Johnson County following his attendance at Kentucky Wesleyan College to teach at a school in Miller's Creek. At that time, the community was in the midst of a timber boom, with the creek powering 3 sawmills. Mayo bought coal rights to land along Miller's Creek and began a mining operation within walking distance of the school. To publicize the quality of coal being mined by his operation, Mayo shipped blocks to Jamestown, Virginia that were used to construct a coal house. This coal house was used in the exposition marking the 300th anniversary of the founding of Virginia. Mayo later sold his mining operation to Northern Coal and Coke, which in turn was later acquired by Consolidation Coal Company. In 1909, the Millers Creek Railroad was constructed in an area now known as West Van Lear to connect the camp to the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad, causing mining on the Peach Orchard seam to boom. An office complex, recreation building, 4 schools, a hotel, and 700 homes were constructed. the town had grown to over 4,000 residents, thus becoming the largest town in Johnson County. The Great Depression took a toll on the mining industry in Van Lear. In 1946, consolidation sold the properties in Van Lear and gave tenants in company houses the opportunity to purchase the residences. The town was disincorporated in 1963. Van Lear has numerous structures from the coal town days still in existence today, and due to the town's renown as the hometown of Loretta Lynn, it receives numerous visitors throughout the year. The Van Lear Historical Society continues to preserve the heritage of the community with its publication, The Bank Mule, the namesake. Van Lear was named for a member of the Board of Directors for Consolidation Coal Company, Consol, Van Lear Black, who was a publisher and civil aviation pioneer. The Mine. Van Lear was a model company town for Consol, its sister model city being Jenkins in Letcher County. The town contained both a steam-powered electric plant and a water processing plant, allowing Consol to produce electricity for every mine, business, and residence in Van Lear. By the 1920s, 5 mining operations were operating along the Chesapeake and Ohio rail tracks, each with a prep plan and tipple. In 1922, a larger power plant that was constructed in Jenkins began supplying power to Van Lear, and the local facility was closed. Mine 155 was the last operated by Consol in Van Lear. The mine, prep plant, and tipple closed in 1949. Important places: Butcher Hollow. Butcher Hollow, also known as Butcher Holler, was the birthplace and childhood home of country singers Loretta Lynn and Crystal Gale. The cabin remains a tourist attraction filled with the furniture and mementos of their childhood. Coal Miners Museum. The Coal Miners Museum, owned and operated by the Van Lear Historical Society, is located along Miller's Creek. Exhibits at the museum include a collection of mining equipment, Van Lear school memorabilia, and a model of the town during its booming years. General Store. The General Store, located near Butcher Hollow, is a historic landmark. Built in 1918 for the Consolidation Coal Company as the Mine No. 5 company store, it is now on the National Register of Historic Places. Herman Webb, uncle of Loretta Lynn and Crystal Gale, acquired the store in 1975, and it quickly became a location for tourists to purchase tickets for a tour of the cabin. Notable people: John Caldwell. Calhoun Mayo was an entrepreneur, educator, and politician who attracted corporate interests in coal deposits to the area. The broad form deed creation is attributed to John C.C. Mayo. Mayo's extravagant mansion still stands in Paintsville, close to Van Lear today. Loretta Lynn was a Grammy-winning country singer and songwriter born in Van Lear. Over the span of her 6-decade career, she released 11 #1 albums. Her most well-remembered song, Coal Miner's Daughter, described her upbringing on Butcher Hollow in Van Lear. Crystal Gale is a Grammy-winning country music singer and the younger sister of Loretta Lynn. She is best known for her 1977 hit, Don't Make My Brown Eyes Blue. Notable events: Van Lear Days. Van Lear Days is an annual fundraising event held by the Van Lear Historical Society to celebrate the history of the coal mining community. The event draws hundreds of people to the area yearly. Welcome to Wayland. The town of Wayland was originally known as Martin's Mill, due to Reverend Old John Martin's grist mill, which was located on Mill Creek, about a mile south of Wayland on what is now Kentucky 7. During the Civil War, following the Battle of Middle Creek, Confederate General Humphrey Marshall and his forces camped at the mill on their journey back to Virginia. In 1911, Elkhorn Coal Company acquired the land that now makes up Wayland from Dan Martin. a descendant of Old John. By 1913, the C&O Railroad extended the Beaver Spur from the town of Martin to the coal camp created at the confluence of Steel Creek and the right fork of Beaver Creek. Coal production commenced immediately upon completion of the rail line. From 1911 to 1914, the town had several names, including Camp Steel Creek and Watsontown. It was finally incorporated in 1914 and officially named Wayland, after Senator Clarence Wayland Watson of West Virginia, a major stockholder, president, and later chairman of Elkhorn Coal Corporation. Wayland's population peaked at 2,880 people during the 1940s and steadily declined after the end of World War II, decreasing dramatically by another one-third after the mine closed in 1954. The namesake. Clarence Wayland Watson, born May 8, 1864, died May 24, 1940, was a coal mining baron from Paramount, West Virginia. Watson organized several coal companies that later became the Consolidation Coal and Mining Companies in West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky. Watson was president of the company until 1911 and afterward became its chairman. Later in life, he became president of Elkhorn Coal Company and served as trustee of various corporations, railroads, and banks across the United States. He was also a lieutenant colonel in the Army in World War I and served as a United States Senator representing the state of West Virginia. The mine. Wayland and the adjacent town of Garrett were both constructed to support the development of the No. 1 Elkhorn coal seam reserve that Elkhorn Coal had acquired in 1911. Mining commenced in 1914, and over the next 40 years of operation, the underground mine workings extended to cover almost 15 square miles of tunnels inside the mountain. For the sake of comparison, downtown Manhattan in New York City is 22 square miles. During the life of the mine, the hard-working miners extracted over 40 million tons of coal for shipment on the C&O Railroad. During the mine's years of peak production, approximately 1,200 miners worked in and around the mines, supporting all facets of the mine's operations. One of the many entrances has now been incorporated into the Waterfall Park on the south end of town on Kentucky Route 7. Important places. The schools. The first school was built in Wayland and was a wooden building consisting of grades 1 through 8. This building eventually burned down and a new brick school was built in 1928. The upstairs of this building was the high school and the downstairs was the grade school. In 1941, a new high school was constructed, leaving the other building to be used strictly as a grade school. Wayland schools were considered the heartbeat of the community. The physical structure of a school held immense importance to the town and was a place for community events, sports, and education for several decades. The Wayland High School closed in 1972, merging with Garrett, Martin, and Maytown to form Allen Central High School. Allen Central was further consolidated into Floyd Central High School in 2018. The gymnasium. The Wayland Gym was constructed in 1937, utilizing a balloon framing exterior constructed around a steel I-beam substructure. The gym was one of the prime social centers for the town, hosting numerous school and local events over the decades. Oftentimes, the crowds attending the game were so large they couldn't fit into the gym, and locals frequently tell of times when the roar of the crowd outside the gym reacting to news from the game exceeded the noise generated inside by the fans lucky enough to gain admission. The depot and turntable. When the land now constituting Wayland was bought, the only means of transportation of goods and minerals was either by flatboats on the creeks or overland in wagons. In 1911, agents of the Elkhorn and Beaver Railroad began to secure right-of-ways for the construction of a railway from Allen to Wayland. This photo shows the end of a rail line and beginning of construction of a turntable on which to turn large locomotives so they could return to the rail yard in Allen. The Glow Spur consisted of approximately 2 total miles of track. The town of Glow itself once had a coal tipple, coal mine, company store, coal office, hotel, and more. The C&O would leave empty cars on the team track where a local switcher would spot them under the tipple for loading and begin spotting preloaded cars on the team track. Meanwhile, the C&O locomotives would run light south to Wayland, turn around on the turntable, and then head back to Glow. When they returned, they picked up the loaded cars on the team track and headed back to Martin, where there was a 10-track yard. The bank. Wayland's first and only bank was located in the building currently occupied by the post office. The Bank of Wayland was established in February 1914 with an initial capitalization of $50,000 and had a second location in Wheelwright. The bank operated for almost 20 years and held deposits of $255,000 prior to its closings. Both locations closed and never reopened when the bank filed for bankruptcy in 1931 due to the nationwide run on banks caused by the Great Depression. The Post Office. The Post Office was established May 18, 1914, with Lewis Martin as postmaster. There are letters at the Wayland Historical Society that document W. W. Goldsmith's attempts to establish the post office in Wayland in existing buildings. The Elkhorn Coal Company Office. The main office for Elkhorn Coal Company was located in the rear of the old theater on the site currently housing Compassion Pediatrics. This building housed both the administrative and engineering staff for the mine. The Community Center. Where the Wayland Community Center stands today was once the camp's hotel and hospital. Travel was limited from one camp to the next, and the roads were rough in between. Companies needed to feed and supply their workers, so each camp had a company store. Companies supplied their own form of payment called script, which could only be spent at the company store. Many miners went into debt to the company stores themselves, as prices were set by the companies and often according to the miners' pay. The community center is now home to the Wayland Historical Society, which hosts a museum full of relics from Wayland's past. One example is a recreation of the Wayland Fountain, a restaurant where folks gathered to socialize, as well as the Denver Collier Coal Room, a collection of coal-related artifacts. The jail. The original jail in Wayland still sits on the corner in town at the junction of Kentucky 7 and Kentucky Route 1086. Notable people. The gymnasium continues to hold great significance to Wayland because it was the home of King Kelly Coleman, who Adolph Rupp calls the greatest high school player who ever lived. There are threads that run through all coal communities: church, food, education, and sports. But the sports thread is particularly special in Wayland. In Coleman's 4-year career at Wayland High School, he scored 4,337 points in 127 games, giving him a 33.6 point per game mark in a time before the three-point shot. He went on to be later drafted by the New York Knicks, and the Mountain Sports Hall of Fame now hosted in the historic gym displays a variety of sports artifacts from across Appalachian Kentucky. George Evans, Secretary of Kentucky Energy Cabinet in 1987, President of National Mines Corporation, President of Evans Elkhorn Coal Corporation, Chairman of the United Way Advance Gifts Campaign, and Chairman of the Board of the Bank of Lexington. Troy Mullins, City Policeman for 50 years. Melvin Wicker, Town Doctor for 42 years. Copper John Campbell, Hall of Fame basketball coach in Wayland for 11 years. Noah Howard, company engineer for 20 years. Dave Tufts, the local barber who held the keys to the tennis courts and the local favorite of all the town's children. Phyllis Honchel, educator and local historian. Ray Patton, professional baseball player. Important events. 1914, Wayland is incorporated. 1948, Commissioner of Major League Baseball and future Kentucky Governor A.B. Happy Chandler throws out the first pitch to commemorate the first night baseball game in Wayland. 1959, the Wayland Little League Baseball League is formed. 1972, Wayland High School is closed. 2022, the epic flood of July.